Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact on the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Mom called 911 because she had found her son unresponsive, hanging in the basement of her house. And it was, I forget how many years, but it was so many years to the day of where her husband had hung himself. And she found him, and I tried to give pre-arrivals. She said it was too late, and she's hysterically crying on the phone. And I mean, I have 2 kids at that point. My kids weren't very old. Her son was 17, and I just remember feeling the hurt through her voice, and just how much that put a knot in my stomach, and hearing that, but not being able to show my emotion and having to stay calm for her to be that calm, to be the calm in the dark for her.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, how's it going? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services. Big shout out to subscribers as always, and shout out to Rapid SOS as well for hosting the podcast. We are currently here live in the vendor hall at APCO 2025 in Baltimore, Maryland, and it has been a busy-ass day. Oh my Lord, there's been so much stuff going on. There's been so much traffic, people coming around for the scavenger hunt, to take a picture with the championship belt, which has been awesome. A lot of poses. It has been excellent. But I am here with my next guest, and my guest today is Brianna, and she is out of Pennsylvania. How's it going?
It's going great.
All right, excellent. So what are some of the things that you've seen so far? I'm sure there might be a mention of puppies.
I actually have not seen the puppy.
Oh, for real?
I always seek out Chase the therapy dog. He's my best friend.
That's right.
So he knocks me over as soon as we get together. And
there you go.
We spend
There you
about 10
go.
minutes laying on the floor together. Other than that, I haven't really been in here too much. I've been out taking classes.
What are some of the classes that you've had so far?
The best one that I had was called Hostage or Hoax. It was a recording of a call that we did a case review on, and it was a 69-year-old woman who her husband had actually went to a local convenience store in Conifer, Colorado, called 911 and said that his son had held them hostage for 2 days. The sheriff's deputy asked the dispatcher to call the house where this woman was And she ended up being on the phone with her for 3 hours and 15 minutes. And through that, in asking yes/no questions, she was able to figure out that her middle-aged son was there, holding her hostage on the top floor with multiple guns, scopes, night vision goggles, and he essentially wanted the police to come there so that he could ambush them, because 3 days prior, there was a similar situation where a male was barricaded in his house and he killed one officer and injured 4 others. So the sheriff got on the news promoting the red flag law to take guns away from mental health subjects. And this individual went into a psychological break. He was schizophrenic, and he heard the sheriff saying to him, "I'm coming to take your guns." So after 2 days, he let his dad go and said, "Go get the police and bring them here so I can kill them."
What?
Yes. So, but listening to the calls, you would never think that it was a hostage situation. It truly sounded like a hoax, but you had to treat it like it was real, and it ended up being real.
Right. Holy moly. Yeah, those are, doing what I do and traveling around, especially doing Imagine Listening and stuff, there are some calls that people share where they're going into the detail, and then at the end, it turns out that it was real.
Right.
And I'm always like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That was real?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
Like jaw-dropping.
Yes.
Holy crap, that actually happens.
Those are, man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of us, especially those who are listening as well, in the 911 profession, whether you're in dispatch or out in the field, have had those moments as well where
Sure.
you get this information and it turns out to be real. I never would have thought
Yeah.
that that's what it was.
Absolutely.
Sheesh. Well, it sounds like that. I mean, awesome that you got the chance to go to that class, and you've been in other classes and everything. Just the experience as well. Being at a national conference and such, even a state conference. A lot of good things that happen. Experience, the networking
Yes.
alone.
That's
But-
a big one.
I want to learn a little bit more about you, though.
Sure.
So, you mentioned that you have about 9.5 years in dispatch, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So how did you get involved to begin with? Do you come from a family
No.
of public safety? Oh, you
No.
jumped in green like myself and many others.
Yes.
You just stumbled upon it.
No one in my family has ever been in public safety before. My aunt is now her second husband. He's a retired police officer, but my grandmother's brother, he used to do photography for the volunteer fire department. So that's the closest to public safety that anyone was ever in. My venture into public safety started when I was 16. I was dating a guy who was in the fire department, and I was like, I've always thought this was cool. I want to join too. So I joined as a junior, and things kind of evolved from there. When I was a senior in high school, I decided I wanted to become an EMT. My mom said, "I'm not paying for it, but if you want to pay for it, you can." So when I went into my senior year in the summer of 2007, I paid, I think it was $325 for the EMT class and the book. And I went 2 nights a week to the EMT class. Plus I was also still in high school, and I also had 2 part-time jobs during that, and passed my EMT test with flying colors. I wanted to become a paramedic when I graduated high school. My mom said, "No, that's not a career. You have to go to college." So I went to college and I got a degree in IT. While I was in college, I worked on the ambulance still. Kept working on the ambulance for a while. Ended up that didn't really make enough money. So I used my IT degree for about 6 years. And then part-time positions opened up at the center that I work at. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply. So I applied and I tested, and here I am almost 10 years later.
What? So definitely a roundabout way
Yes.
of getting there. Now, when you get in there, though, did you get a chance to do like a sit-along or anything like that?
No.
Dude, so you didn't even see the inside or anything?
No.
Okay.
We took a 100-question multiple choice test that was based off of the geography and other questions of the county that you really only knew if you grew up in that area.
Yeah.
Now it's different and they use critical, but originally it was, what bridge is this? How many bridges are in our county?
Right. So have you ever heard of Bob's Road?
Yes, yes, exactly. And a hearing test and a typing test.
Wow.
That was how they chose the candidates.
So you end up taking all of that. You're chosen. What is the feeling? Excitement, overwhelmed, scared?
I was overwhelmed for sure. Luckily, I knew a lot of the people going in there, so it wasn't as scary per se,
Yeah.
but just knowing that I was going to be handling a phone call that could be a life or death matter rather than physically being there and being able to do something. That was probably the scariest part for me.
That's, and I like to ask a lot those who are out in the field and then end up coming into dispatch because, like you said, it's got to be an odd feeling, a scary feeling, even knowing that you can't be hands-on. It is just your voice now. Wanting to jump through the phone to help, and you
Yes.
can't do it.
That's probably the hardest, and even still to this day, the hardest. Not knowing the outcome most of the time. Sometimes you get lucky and you find out the outcome.
Right.
But also knowing that there's more that can be done. But when you're in an EMD center and you can only stick by those protocols, or else you could legally have an issue with that, that's hard too.
Yeah. Liability is a huge thing.
Yes.
So you end up getting in. You go in that first day. 1, how are you feeling? 2, what do you see? Like when you walk in, is it like several people working at once? Is it just one other person working or 2 people working? Is there a bunch of monitors, keyboards, mice? What is it that you're seeing and how are you feeling?
So day 1, when I started, you went into a separate room, and that's when they started, excuse me, that's when they started with getting your public safety telecommunicator, and it was all classroom until you got your PST. And then once you got your PST, you could start doing 4-hour observation time and starting to take non-emergency calls. So I really didn't they might have given us a tour, but it's been so long, I'm not sure. But I didn't really sit in front of a console until well into classroom training.
So, okay, hold on. So then how much time is that then? Is that just a few weeks? Is that a month or 2?
It was 40 hours for the PST, and then I went straight into EMD after that, which is another 40 hours. So it was like 2 weeks before we actually started sitting in front of a desk.
So then you sit in front of that desk after 2 weeks worth of training, and how are you feeling?
Overwhelmed for sure.
Yeah.
I always thought of myself as a pretty good multitasker, but then when you sit in front of that desk and you have 7 screens in front of you, plus a phone and a radio, and knowing that eventually it's just going to be me sitting here.
Right.
That was definitely are you sure you want to do this?
Right. Am I doing the right thing here?
Yeah.
How many people work at the same time?
It depends on the time of the day. Our minimum is 4, and sometimes we go up to having between 9 and 11 in the room. It just depends. The busiest time of the day is in the afternoon, so like between 3 and 6, and that's when we really have our most people. But during late night and early morning, there's 4 people, and then it just kind of increases by the hour until it starts decreasing again.
Do you ever have like family or friends just start asking questions like, so what are you going through? What is it like? And did you feel comfortable even talking about it, or was it more like, I'm still trying to get my bearings, okay?
No, actually, nobody family-wise ever asked me. My kids ask me stuff now.
Yeah.
And so, Mom, how was work today? Did you get a lot of calls? But my family's never really asked a lot of questions about it.
Interesting. Because a lot of times, you'll have, and it doesn't even have to be family. You'll just people that know that you work there, like, so what kind of stuff are you, like, how crazy is it?
What's your
been
worst
going
call?
on? Yeah, what is going on? All this other stuff. So you end up going through, and then, so how long, so you had the 2 weeks of that training. How long was the entire program, though, until you were on your own?
For me, we started in April, and I was signed off on my own in the beginning of August. So there were 2 people that got signed off a week or 2 before me. So that was April to August is 4 months. And average is about 6. So.
Nice. Okay, so you get plenty of time.
Yes.
And so you do every discipline of public safety?
Yes.
All right, so you got all 3. So that as well is another thing. And the reason I say it that way as well is because when I first started out, it was just me. 8 hours at a PD.
Ooh.
And it was a small PD, though. But when the shit would hit the fan, it would hit the fan.
Absolutely.
And I remember sitting at my, which I guess I would call my console, at my desk. And this is going to sound so stupid. It sounds stupid every time I say it out loud. But if something crazy was going on, behind me was this shelf, and it had all of our books, like our big maps and like all this other stuff. That was 2001. Uh-huh. And I would push myself off, and because my chair had wheels to roll back, get what I needed, and then come back and continue doing what I was doing. Now, I ended up eventually adding something. So I would push off, spin once, grab, spin back, and come back. And I don't know, man. I used to think I was the coolest shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is, you know what? You're right. That is exactly what it was.
You were
I was so
self-soothing.
hyped up that,
absolutely.
Instead of being in fetal position, rocking back and forth, I was pushing off and spinning. That is hilarious. I never thought about it like that. You're right. I was self-soothing.
Yep.
Yeah, I was getting that adrenaline out of there. But doing that, and then because I started out in Florida and then moved back home to Southwest Michigan, dispatch for the county that I grew up in. And that was a whole different dynamic as well. Working at a central dispatch now with a team. Mm-hmm. Our minimum was 3, the max were 4 over the weekend. But that whole thing was just a different beast.
Sure.
And you're learning all of that. And just like you, I knew the geography, but for me, it was more the west side of the county versus the east side. And but once you pick up all that other stuff, it's like nothing. But when I first walked in there, I see all these people doing different things, multitasking, doing what you would think like an octopus would be doing, because it's so much moving and they're eating at the same time, and I would think the same thing. Can I do this? Like, am I going to be able to do this? I've got 4 years of experience already, but this is way different. I don't know how this is going to go. So you end up getting through your training, and now you're going to be on your own. But even before that, they turn to you and they're like, okay, now it's time for you to take phone calls. How freaked out are you?
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit?
Yeah. I had the experience of sitting and listening because we did 4-hour observation
did you have
shifts
the umbilical cord?
Yes.
Yes.
So I had the ability of listening, and I observed how they asked questions and how they interacted, and I learned what I wanted to do and how I wanted to handle myself and how I didn't want to handle myself.
Yeah.
And just kind of cemented that into my head. And I just built upon that. My first call, I don't even remember the first call that I answered while I was in training, but I'm sure it was super clunky, and that, that my trainer was like, no, you need to ask this. No, you need to ask that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that now, but I'm absolutely sure, because now I can listen to a call if it didn't go a good way or it was a poor dispatcher, and be like, you should have asked that. That's part of your all-caller questions. Just you need to ask those things.
Right. man, just some of the stuff that you're saying takes me back as well to a lot of that. Because like, I was talking on another episode recently, actually just earlier today, and I was saying that, sometimes when we're going through training, you get kind of that, perfectionism going because you almost have to be perfect in what you're doing in a way. But we also have to remember to give ourselves some grace because we are also human.
Right.
And shit's going to happen. And what I mean by that in the sense of you're going to get nervous. You're going to continue doing what you're doing. You've got your training, but you're going to have those feelings. And there's kind of that 2.5, 3 year experience where it's kind of like the sweet spot where you are dialed in.
Yes.
And then, you're doing stuff. It's not that you're not confident, but you really feel like you have a grasp of what it is that you're doing. And then those fears that you had in the beginning, they kind of wash away. But with 911, even years after, sometimes you ask yourself, like, can I do this?
Oh, yeah.
Can I keep doing this?
But now I have different fears because I have this much experience. And, I come and I hear about the call, like that example in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I start to think, well, what if I got a call like that? I mean, I've had my share of calls that have stuck with me or that I didn't know what to say, but a call like that, that's not even one that I would think about being a possibility. So kind of have to stop and think like, well, what would I do in that situation? Or somebody mentioned in a different class earlier about having a protocol for if an officer's car got stolen. I don't know how I would handle that because they're listening. That person that's in the officer's car can now hear all your radio transmissions.
This is true.
So how are you going to surprise him? You can't. And they brought up another one about if an officer's taken hostage. I would have never even thought of that. I mean, yes, can it happen? Has it happened? Sure, but that's not something that is at the front of your brain.
Far in the extreme sometimes you think, that wouldn't happen, but it happens.
But that's why you need to be prepared for the low frequency, high risk calls.
Yeah, that and just listening to a lot of stuff. You got these phone calls, they come in. You're not only, depending on how your center is set up, right? You're able to listen to everyone in the center, and then you're listening to the entire environment of the call that is coming in. And it's a crazy thing to think that you can really, you can really focus like that. And people have asked me in the past, they're like, what do you mean dispatch here? And I say, well, think about a movie, like an action movie where there's slow motion. And then when it's in slow motion, it focuses on one thing and then zooms out, focuses on another thing and another thing. That's what dispatch ear is when you're listening to everything that's going on, not just the caller who's probably breathing and panicking, but all the other sounds. You're focusing in, and then the same on the other side, focusing in, and that shit doesn't turn off once you leave dispatch, though. No. When you're at home, it kicks in, too.
Even sitting here, I'm hearing all of the background conversations and while I'm focusing on us talking.
Exactly. You and I are having this conversation, and we can hear everyone laughing, talking around us. Someone's like, where are we going for dinner? And that just sounded like the Power Rangers.
Yes. Right.
That is how our ears work. But yeah, it doesn't turn off. But those are just part of our superpowers as well.
Right.
So when you got done with training, do you remember any of those earlier calls that you ended up taking?
I remember one.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I lucked out. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna knock on wood saying this now. There hasn't been a lot of calls that I've taken that have been so catastrophic. There's been a few that stick with me.
You better not send me a message in the next week or so. Like, dude, I put it out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't jinx myself. But I was very near the end of my training, and I wasn't on an umbilical cord anymore.
Yeah.
But they were still monitoring my calls. And I took a call for, you might recognize this when I start saying it because I said it in an Imagine Listening session. Mom called 911 because she had found her son unresponsive, hanging in the basement of her house. And it was, I forget how many years, but it was so many years to the day of where her husband had hung himself. And she found him, and I tried to give pre-arrivals. She said it was too late, and she's hysterically crying on the phone. And I mean, I have 2 kids at that point. My kids weren't very old. Her son was 17, and I just remember feeling the hurt through her voice, and just how much that put a knot in my stomach, and hearing that, but not being able to show my emotion and having to stay calm for her, to be that calm, to be the calm in the dark for her.
I think those are some of the hardest things as well, especially like you said, if you have kids, and you're taking a call with kids, or just loved ones. I think also it's just that innocence, right? And it hits really hard, whether you have kids or not. But when you do have kids and you're relating in that sense, it just hits that much harder. Yes. But I also think, in a way, it help, that type of experience helps us speak to those callers in a different way. Not that our partners wouldn't be able to do it; they would do great, right? But because we have that experience of having kids as well, we're able to connect with them a little bit deeper and talk to like what they need to hear in order to help them get through whatever moment that it is that they're getting through.
Right.
It's interesting sometimes how we have this connection with a lot of people. I mean, if you think about it, these folks are calling in, speaking to a total stranger.
Yes.
And what do we teach our kids, or who've been taught to us in the beginning, is stranger danger. Yeah, don't talk to strangers. But in these moments, you are putting trust in a voice to get help to you, or to give you instructions or whatever in those quick moments.
Yeah.
And sometimes you relate to them even deeper because of things that are going on. And then what people don't understand sometimes is when the call is over, it's not over for us,
right?
Because it sticks, it stays. I mean, like you said, it's one that you remember, and it's there. What a profession, right?
For sure, for sure.
Oh man, it has been awesome to have you on and chat with you and learn more about you. I've got a couple questions left. The first one, how do you feel like the profession has changed you?
So, a couple ways. I've always been, I'm a helper. I'm a helper and I'm a giver. Yeah. I'm a very acts of service type of person. And I feel rewarded to be able to offer my help in any capacity, but especially in this profession. And so through the years of doing this, it's given me an increased passion for wanting to help, but also, and especially through attending the national conferences like APCO and NINA, just learning how much is needed in the first responder, specifically dispatch, wellness, and peer support. And that has really changed me to, when I started in public safety, it was tough it out, suck it up, move on to the next call.
Exactly.
And that's kind of shifted now to, it's okay to not be okay. Talk about it.
Right.
So many people that I know, or let me rephrase, I know so many people that have unfortunately lost their battle with mental health. And quite a few that have unfortunately taken their lives on duty. And it just keeps rising. And it gives me the momentum and the drive to do something to help with that, because it's needed.
Right. I love that. The final question I have for you is one that I did not give you. But if you've listened to the podcast before, you know what question I'm going to ask. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But here we go. In your 9.5 years of being in public safety, being in 911, everything that you've experienced, everything that you've gone through, and what I'm going to ask you is not to change anything, because I feel as though there are things that we go through that lead us to big lessons, hard lessons, experiences, whatever, that bring us to the person that we are today. So, with that said, if you could go back in time 9.5 years ago to when you started your dispatch career to talk to yourself, what would you tell yourself?
I would probably tell myself to do everything I could to further myself and learn more rather than it happening 7 years into my career. And, really soul search and see what I want my niche to be in dispatch.
Awesome.
But there is something that we didn't talk about that I want to talk about.
Bust it out.
You had given me this question, essentially my why.
Yes.
And I didn't realize my why initially when I got into public safety. It took a while. And so when I was 11, let me back up. My parents divorced when I was young. My mom is remarried, and her husband adopted me, and he has been essentially the only father I've ever known since I was very young, and I love him for that.
Yeah.
My real dad, he had moved back to Texas. I did not know him. He unfortunately made some bad choices, and when I was 10, he had reached out to me, and he sent me a letter. And so I sent him back a little letter and a Christmas present. It was a figurine of somebody bowling that goes back and forth. He wasn't a bowler. I don't know why I sent him that, but that's what I sent him. So we talked on the phone every day from December of 2010 until June of 2001. And I remember sitting at my grandma's house. My grandma watched me in the summer, and my mom came to pick me up. And she was acting weird. And my sister had called her, which was also very weird. She's my half-sister, 12 years older than me. We have the same dad, different moms. And turns out, this was on the first day of summer, June 21st. And turns out that my dad was on his way home from work that day, and he was having chest pain. So he pulled over on the side of the road, and he had a heart attack, went into cardiac arrest, and ultimately ended up passing away on the side of the road. So his birthday's the 4th of July. We went down, had the funeral, and it was hard because I didn't know him. And then as years went by, I was, around the time I took my EMT class, my mom has an article in a fire safe box, and it's about my dad. And it talks about how he was on the side of the road and nobody stopped. And so I've always lived with the question of, what if somebody would have stopped?
Yeah.
Would the outcome have been different? So unknowingly, that was my why for getting into EMS. But ultimately, that's my why for public safety, period, because I could be that voice on the other end of the phone when somebody stops and finds somebody's dad and gives those pre-arrivals. So knowing that I have the ability to change how the course of somebody's life goes, I mean, that's a really big superpower.
Yes.
And that's something really big to hold in your hands. So that's my why.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. My condolences as well. And that is a big why. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for what you do in the profession.
Thank you.
And for some of the stuff that is on the horizon, that we will just leave it at that. Cliffhanger, yes. Thank you so much for being on. This was a lot of fun. And if you hang tight for just one moment, for those who are listening, because now we go into the long outro, as you look around and you see everyone packing up because this place is closing up here. For those who are listening right now, if you have any comments, questions, anything for the podcast, you can simply go to links.co/IM901. Once again, that is links with 2 i's.co/IM901. You'll find everything there. You'll find my email, social media, where to hear the latest episodes of both the OG podcast Within the Trenches and also the new podcast, Imagine Listening. You will also find a link to the free community, The Trenches. There are over 200 hours of free continuing education there. All of Dare to Be Greats, all of the Dispatcher Roundtable rounds, all of that is there, so make sure to check it out. Shout out to both in digital as well as Rapid SOS, and then you can hear this 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But Imagine Listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.